Welcome to another episode of Simplifying Services podcast. Today we are talking about AI and IoT, and to join this discussion I have with me Prankit. So hi Prankit, and welcome to this show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Excited.
Tell us a bit more about your role at Ingram Micro.
Absolutely. So I am the AI and IoT solutions lead at Ingram Micro. My background, just for context, is a lot more technical. So I come from the world of robotics and machine learning, and I was involved with a lot of cutting edge research back in the day. But I would say over the course of the last 4 years, I've been spending a lot of time, especially with our channel partners, to understand the role that they play with their end user organizations and the sort of market space that they dominate and the sort of use cases and challenges that you see in that space. And equally, I've been working with our vendors, so that's including our sort of standard vendors and hyperscalers, but also newer organizations that are working on some really sort of groundbreaking and cutting edge solutions to kind of align the two. And what we've ended up doing is creating this ecosystem of solutions and services that can enable our partners to take some of these amazing technologies into their end user space. And it is a constant effort. So I'm constantly getting feedback from our partners about what they're hearing in the market or what they're struggling with and where they need support. And we're constantly sort of adapting our portfolio as well. So hopefully that tells you a bit about kind of who we are and my role particularly.
Definitely, and sounds fascinating. And this is quite a hot topic. But why should partners care about this space?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think a lot of it is driven, well, I think all of it is driven from the end user, firstly. I think end users across market segments are becoming increasingly educated and aware of these types of solutions out there. And what they're looking for are not just products or solutions to buy, but like trusted advisors that can kind of guide them around what they should be exploring and how. And I think this is the role that our partners want to play. And I think we're seeing it in kind of formalized in three different ways. I think one is very much around kind of retaining your existing customer base. So, as a partner, if they have end users coming and asking about these solutions, if they're not able to offer it, there's a potential risk that that end user might go to a competitor or somewhere else where they can find that sort of trusted advisor relationship. I think the second driver is sort of winning new business, because if you're kind of offering these types of value add services, then suddenly you're attracting a lot of new customers. That also helps your kind of traditional line of business. And I think the third bit is really where we see a lot of partners be successful with this, where they are taking these solutions and they're adding their own sort of value add service wraps around it and really building up and creating their own niche in their market. And they're doing this early on, so it puts them in a very sort of advantageous position compared to other competition out there. So it's very much, I would say, it's driven by the end users, but depending on the partner and kind of their position, they're sort of reacting slightly differently. And it's slightly different motivators for each partner in terms of why they want to be sort of talking about AI and IoT and just emerging technologies and solutions in general.
So for the partners to be seen as trusted advisors to their customers and for them to be able to have their services wrap around, where does Ingram Micro come into this picture? How does Ingram Micro add value?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the tech landscape, as you'll be familiar, is so much out there. I think when you look at AI, and especially since the generative, AI piece taking off, there's so many solutions, there's so many use cases. There's like a new use case every week almost, and new announcements being made by companies. And it's been similar in the IoT landscape for the past 5-6 years as well. New tech coming out almost on a weekly basis. So there's a lot of noise in the market, and probably the biggest thing that Ingram can do, and we are doing, is helping our partners separate the sort of the signal from the noise. So identifying where the real sort of opportunity lies, what are things to really focus on, what's real in like the today and now, and then what's coming tomorrow that maybe they should also be focusing on. I think with partners, if they're, if you're busy with your kind of day-to-day traditional business, it can be hard to, unless you really invest in the space, it can be hard to become domain experts in a new area where I think as of today, even the experts are struggling because there's new stuff coming out constantly,
new buzzwords and lots of noise, new jargons.
Yeah.
It can be quite hard for anyone to kind of navigate this space.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the biggest thing is being that filter, right? Helping them identify what's real, what they should focus on. I think the second part of it is maybe less vendor focusing and more customer focusing, which is, as a partner, how do you identify an opportunity in this space? How do you qualify it? How do you nurture it? And, the sort of, the personas that you need to be talking to, the line of business stakeholders, as opposed to just sort of IT and procurement. And it's sort of helping them navigate that a little bit. And again, some partners may already be familiar with it. For some, it's newer, but we want to equally support all and enable all of them. And probably the third thing I would say is, as you can imagine, because it's a complex ecosystem, delivering solutions is its own challenge. So this is where, again, we sort of leverage our ecosystem as well as our internal services to really support the partners end to end. So even if it's a brand new partner, they don't really have any capabilities in this space, but they want to have, or they want to start engaging with customers, we can support them end to end, and they can completely lean on us. But like I said, if they want to build their own service wraps and do some of that consulting work themselves, as well as solution design and everything else that comes with it, they're more than welcome to. And it's a very flexible sort of engagement model.
Let's break that down. What does Ingram Micro's offering looks like in this space in terms of the solutions and the services?
So essentially what we've done is we've kind of created two tracks for partners to go on. There's the solutions track where we're looking at repeatable and scalable use cases. So we're looking at problem statements that are repeatable across a particular market segment. So healthcare is a very good example with the NHS. Even though all the NHS trusts kind of run their processes slightly differently, they all face the same problems in terms of bed management and managing medical equipment and patient flow, etc. So that's where we have the solutions track, where we've created this portfolio of verticalized solutions that the partners can become experts in based on the area they're focused on. And they can find these easily repeatable use cases for these, I would say, more turnkey solutions. The second track is a more kind of services-led track where we're looking at kind of super bespoke and unique or niche use cases where something needs to be built from scratch almost. And that's where the focus is a lot more on capabilities and services. And you're looking at sort of quite large projects with large ROIs because it's something's being built from scratch. So we kind of offer those two tracks. Now, in reality, most partners sort of take a hybrid approach. So based on sort of the market segment they're focused on, there might be a few, I would say, like turnkey solutions that they can onboard that helps them kind of get started in this space and get some conversations going. But then the end goal ends up being they want to be that services-led partner as well, where they can kind of build or facilitate the building of these bespoke solutions and introduce them in the market. So that's sort of the way that we've approached it. But with everything, so even with sort of our solutions, we do offer end-to-end support to the partners. So it's super easy for them to get started. And we could do a majority of the heavy lifting, especially for the first few opportunities as they kind of get used to the space.
So if a partner is interested in learning more about how they can get started or how they can continue their journey in this space, what would be the immediate next step for them?
Yeah, I would say the very first step should be just reaching out to us. I think, sometimes there can be some hesitation, especially if you're a brand new partner, because you're thinking, what am I getting myself into here? And you can kind of used to your traditional business, which is fair enough. But what I'll say is if you reach out to us, everything we do is quite complementary to what partners are already doing. So just as a sort of slight sidetrack example, if there's a partner that is quite big in the networking space and they're selling, they're putting in all and managing all this networking infrastructure, we'll have solutions on the IoT side that can seamlessly work with that existing network. So with the access points, using protocols like Bluetooth or BLE, they'll seamlessly integrate. So it becomes a very nice co-sell opportunity. Similarly, if there's partners selling, compute infrastructure, there's AI solutions that can run on-prem. And again, there's a massive opportunity there. So everything we're doing is very complementary. We're never asking a partner to look at something completely left field unless they want to. But if they reach out to us, we'll do a discovery workshop with them, which helps unearth they're sort of the areas they're focused on. We tend to not keep it. It's not tech heavy at all. It's very much focused on where the business cases could be for them in terms of their customer bases and where they could focus. And again, spotting those opportunities, and we'll sort of really take them on that journey. And on the other hand, with partners that already have capabilities in this space, I think it's still really helpful for them to get in touch, because I think firstly, given the complex nature of the technological landscape, the more you kind of share and exchange information and knowledge sharing, the better prepared we all are. But also, because of our flexible engagement model, it doesn't mean that we need to do everything for you. If there's only one aspect that we can help you with, we'll be more than happy to help you with it. And I think everyone needs help in this space because how it is currently.
Exactly, given how dynamic it is and how fast-paced the change is, I think it definitely is something everybody needs support with, just to stay on top of what's the next big thing.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many different aspects to it as well, because when you look at some of these solutions, the use case, the outcome, that's there. But then there's so many things around data privacy, around kind of how the data is being used, what's it being used for. A big sort of thing that gets missed out with some of these projects, or initially used to get missed out, that we found was training the actual end users to use the solution. So, hospitals, again, are a good example where a decision might get made that we're putting in this new system that's going to help X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
But if the people on the ground are not accepting it or are not trained to use it, then it doesn't really get used. It becomes a burden.
Yes.
So it can be quite a complicated piece to navigate. But like with healthcare and like with all the other market sectors, there'll be key areas we've identified, and again, we'll take that partner through that journey and help them sort of see things from this point of view as well, and really be able to deliver solutions that are benefiting their end users and driving an actual outcome rather than sort of tech for tech's sake.
I know you've mentioned this briefly before, Prankit, but for a partner who's completely new into this space and is thinking, how is this going to benefit me? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think essentially it's an opportunity, especially if they're brand new to this space, and there's no kind of like previous biases about what they've done and what works and doesn't work. I think it's a really good opportunity for them to build a new recurring revenue stream into their business model, and it can be done in a very complementary way. So, like the example I kind of gave about the networking equipment or the compute equipment, I mean, based on what their existing business is, we can really tailor the go-to-market. So firstly, that, they don't have to completely retrain their salespeople. Their sales team can kind of align the solutions that we're selling with what they're already going and having conversations about. There's just a little bit of education and enablement, but not like a complete retraining. But also the other side of it is, if they're a new partner in the space, they might be thinking, I need to make a lot of investment. I need to hire someone technical who kind of can understand the technical landscape, maybe need to get a new sales director, etc. But again, if they work with us, we can take a lot of that heavy lifting and do a lot of that heavy lifting ourselves, at least to show them and prove to them where the business model for them makes sense and where it exists. And this is where this partnership model, the joint go-to-markets, really makes sense. So our goal is to really make it super easy for partners who are listening to this and, might be thinking about taking the leap. Just drop us an email or give us a call. And no strings attached. Very happy to talk you through what we're doing, share some of the case studies that are relevant to kind of their space, and really show them what the next steps look like and, how long this journey will be for them.
Absolutely. And I think that's where we add value by taking down those barriers to entry and, giving that support and enablement that's required for them to be able to consider navigating this space or entering this space.
Yeah, absolutely. And also because we focus primarily on the use cases and outcomes in these sessions, there's the partner is not going to get lost in the tech landscape itself. So it's not like if the partner comes in, we're throwing a lot of things at them and they have to kind of make sense of what they want to focus on. We try and tailor it a lot to that partner. So based on who we're speaking with, and again, based on the market segment that they're active in, we can tailor the session to be very specific. And hopefully it'll sort of connect and relate to what they're seeing, because more likely than not, they've already had some of these conversations with their end users. But hopefully after our session, they'll be able to then identify them as opportunities where they can actually go in and co-sell a solution.
So that's very bespoke, no one size fits all. You said go sell a solution. Would you then also extend that support into the kind of conversations they have with their customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So, especially with the partners that are new in this space, they would often involve us in their end user conversation. So, we'll typically go do a joint workshop with their end user, a discovery session. And typically in the workshop, we try and engage multiple stakeholders from the end user organization, especially from the different lines of business, to make sure we can kind of align the budgets and also align the requirements. Because like in every organization, you find out a lot of different business units don't really interact with each other. And sometimes we find that in the end user organization, there might be 3 or 4 different stakeholders who are going out into the market looking for the exact same thing, but talking to 3 or 4 different suppliers, and might end up, spending 4 times the amount for 4 different systems doing the same exact thing. So we try and align it, and we'll work alongside the partner to sort of do this ROI workshop as well, the return on investment workshop, where we'll prioritize the use cases for the end user in front of them and do sort of some quick calculations on where they can see the return. And a lot of this is really to enable the partner as well, for them to see how we host these workshops and how we can help them. And yeah, a lot of the partners will then say, look, we can do a lot of this front loading ourselves. We'll go do this consultative, workshop and qualification, and then we'll bring the opportunity to you once we need sort of the vendors and the tech involved.
Exactly. And I think that gives that this kind of a service wraparound gives the partners an opportunity for, like you said, recurring revenue, profits, and obviously scaling the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I do think a lot of partners are realizing, because this is the direction the industry is headed in, it is very much a case of acting now. And kind of the longer you wait, probably the more difficult it will get for you to then get started on this journey. And I think the partners that are kind of realizing that, and it doesn't matter how small you start, you don't need to start with a multi-million-pound project. We're here to help you. And I think even if you start off with a small project, you're still in a much better position than you were yesterday when you were not enabled at all in this space.
And not started at all.
Not started at all, exactly.
Thank you, Prankit. That's been a super useful session, and thank you to our listeners.